Zimbabwe is a tropical landlocked country situated in south-central Africa, which covers 389,000 square meters. The country had a population of just over 13 million people in the year 2013, which was estimated to have increased to 14 million by 2020, according to the last census report from the Zimbabwe National Statistics Agency. Half of the population are children under the age of 18 years. The children and the youths are key in the achievement of sustainable development that embodies the principle of intergenerational equity. The State of Zimbabwe's Environment Report enables the country to analyze the state and condition of the country's national wealth. It is an environmental monitoring tool which assesses whether or not there is sustainable utilization in the country's resources. The tool establishes whether the conditions of ecosystems, vegetation, land, water resources, and wildlife are improving or deteriorating over time. This enables the formulation of action plans and establishment of benchmarks for future analysis. Availability of information on the state of the environment enables the country to know the dynamics and the connections between the social, environmental, economic, as well as political aspects. The state of Zimbabwe's natural resource base is determined by the vagaries of nature and how its citizens utilize and manage it. The country's land mass falls into 5 broad agroecological regions, with agricultural potentials declining from region 1 to 5. Research findings seem to suggest that progressive changes have taken place in these agroecological regions over the last 30 years due to climate change. A closer look at land distribution by agroecological region and land use categories highlights some of the origins of environmental challenges in the country. Zimbabwe's land is divided into land use classes on the basis of land quality and land tenure systems. The land is classified as communal, resettlement, protected areas, urban areas, mining, forest, conservancies, and water bodies. The land tenure systems determine how people get access to land and their use rights. Communal areas are administered under customary tenure and enable family members to get access to land, although the rights to land is not transferable to other people who are not family members. The current legal framework mandates the Rural District Council to administer communal land, as this presents problems in terms of tenure insecurity and inequality, which results in poor land and environmental stewardship, as there is no incentive for development. Freehold land tenure system entitles the holder to a property for life. This arrangement provides collateral value as well as security of tenure. There are also various leases based on terms and conditions. The various leases include 99-year leases, which are issued to A2 farmers, and land permits issued to A1 farmers. These permits have failed to attract collateral from financial institutions, and also there is no incentives for proper management of the environment. 3/4 of the rural areas lie in Region 4 and 5, which are least favors for both crop and livestock production. Rural areas are most densely populated areas outside urban centers. The government of Zimbabwe embarked on land redistribution exercise soon after independence in 1980, thereby decongesting the rural areas and correcting the skewed colonial land ownership in the country. Both rural and resettlement areas in Zimbabwe are characterized by soil erosion resulting from unsustainable land management practices, especially in areas such as Mondoro Communal Area in Marsh West Province and Buera in Manicaland Province. Soil erosion has several impacts. It leads to loss of topsoil, which is a necessary ingredient for plant growth. Secondly, sheet erosion is associated with loss of water in the form of runoff due to reduced infiltration. Zimbabwe boasts one of the richest biodiversity collections in Africa and is a leading tourist destination. For many years, it also boasted of well-maintained forest reserves, parks, wildlife, and various initiatives that encourage conservation. But in the past few years, all that seems to have changed. For example, in the year 2013, in Hwange National Park alone, more than 100 elephants died from cyanide poisoning due to organized poaching. Water is an increasingly valuable commodity in Zimbabwe, and water issues are becoming more and more important. The country depends primarily on surface water and rainfall. Most of Zimbabwe's river systems dry up a few months after the rainy season due to siltation. Siltation is a serious challenge affecting rivers and dams. It is estimated that close to half of the country's dams are more than 50% silted. The problem of siltation is compounded by illegal mining, sand extraction, and sustainable farming practices taking place in catchment areas. It is estimated that in the Save River catchment, about 50 to 70 tons of soil is washed away every year. Vegetation plays an important role in both environment and economic development of this country. From the environmental perspective, vegetation helps to maintain hydrological cycles, which protect soils and regulate their climate. One of the major causes of land degradation in Zimbabwe is the removal of vegetation cover, which exposes the land to the agents and processes of soil erosion. There are several drivers of deforestation in Zimbabwe. Land clearing in preparation for agricultural production is one of the major causes of deforestation. Secondly, over the years, Zimbabwe has been experiencing massive power cuts, resulting in high demand for fuel wood. Over 80% of households in the country depend on fuel wood as a source of energy in both rural and urban areas. Massive deforestation is taking place in the peripheries of urban areas and growth point as more and more fuel wood vendors are finding a lucrative business in firewood selling. Other drivers of deforestation include use of fuel wood for tobacco curing, wildfires, commercial felling, and urban expansion. In the last decade, deforestation was reported to have progressed at about 100,000 hectares per year to 330,000 hectares of forest cover per year. There is also need for a shift towards alternative energy sources such as solar and biogas, as well as intensification of reforestation programs, especially for fast-growing exotic trees such as the eucalyptus, also known as gum trees in tobacco-growing areas. Every year, wildfires continue to ravage grasslands, destroying the environment, life and property. Over 1 million hectares of grasslands and forest land are burnt each year. These wildfires affect the life cycle of commercial plantations, tourism industry, and agricultural production. Wildfire management is key in sustainable management of the natural resources base. Biomass reduction strategies such as fireguard construction, hay baling, thatch grass, and grass combing must be practiced in order to reduce the incidences of wildfires. The establishment of wildfire management committees from the national level down to the world level is key in dealing with wildfire issues in the country. Mining and mineral development is of great economic importance to Zimbabwe and plays a key role in the development of infrastructure. However, the extraction and processing of mineral ores has negative impacts on the environment, particularly gold mining. The most affected sites by illegal gold mining in Zimbabwe are Chikuti and Chekutu in Mashonaland West, Globe and Phoenix as well as Wonders in Midlands Province, DTZ and Taka Forest in Manicaland, Nugget in Matobo, Ingwizi and Umzingane River in Matabeleland South, Bridgewell in Matabeleland North, Grange Farm in Masvingo, and Mazoe River in both Marsh Central and Marsh East provinces. Over 1.5 million illegal artisanal miners operate in rivers, grazing area and plantations. The number of illegal artisanal miners at a site with rich gold deposits range from 200 to 1,000 on each site. Big mining companies also create dumps and pits during mining processes, and these are environmental hazards. Mine dumps cause both chemical and physical pollution. The chemical effects of mine dumps are felt beyond the actual mining area through the movement of water or leachate. Whilst mine pits that are created by big mining companies and artisanal miners pose a danger to both livestock and human beings, animals fall into these pits and are trapped to death. Some of the miners use mercury and cyanide in gold concentration and amalgamation processes. The chemicals find their way into the environment, causing pollution of the environment. Gold miners in Makara area in Mudzi district, Mashonaland East Province, Kadoma and Shurugu area, Midlands Province, for example, use both cyanide and mercury for gold concentration and amalgamation processes. Some of the environmental challenges of major concern in Zimbabwe are damage to the riverbanks, pollution of river systems and deforestation. There is need to promote integrated land use system in the mining sector in order to deal with environmental issues holistically. The government should set aside funds for the rehabilitation of degraded areas, and all miners should adhere to the mining and environmental legislation. Waste management is one of the pertinent environmental challenges faced in Zimbabwe. The country generates about 1.65 million tons of waste annually. About 60% of the waste is biodegradable, 13% plastic, 10% paper, 7% being metal and rubber. This implies that 90% of this waste can be reused, recycled or composted. Most urban local authorities in Zimbabwe are struggling to collect and dispose waste from residential areas to dump sites. Most urban councils continue to dump waste at unprotected dump sites. The haphazard collection and disposal of waste has caused environmental hazards such as contamination of water and surges in outbreak of diseases like typhoid, dysentery, cholera, and diarrhea. It is pleasing to note that Zimbabwe responded by proclaiming every first Friday of every month a cleanup day. However, there is need for the country to embrace the integrated waste management approach, such as the waste is separated at source. The waste separated then becomes raw material for recycling companies. Industrial and other human activities are loading atmosphere with pollutants that are harmful to human and animal life. The combustion of fossil fuel for domestic heating, power generation in motor vehicles and industrial processes are the principal sources of air pollution. In Harare, Magaba area and Glenville, people burn tires to obtain wire. Burning tires in these areas causes serious air pollution. The most common pollutants include sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, and suspended particulate matter. Many of the air pollutants directly affect the respiratory and cardiovascular systems. Some of the air pollutants cause skin cancer, increased eye cataracts, and sunburns. Zimbabwe generates electricity using coal at Hwange and other thermal power stations. Concern has been raised over air pollution emanating from these thermal power stations. There is need to adhere to emission standards and pollution abatement equipment and come up with policies relating to the importation of second-hand vehicles. Due to the climate change, which has affected most parts of the country, most communities are now practicing shrimp cultivation in order to derive livelihoods. Shrimp cultivation along rivers has been a major driver of siltation, affecting streams, rivers, and dams. Shrimp cultivation has immediate and long-term consequences. It results in soil erosion, which in turn causes siltation of water bodies. There is need to look for development partners interested in community community projects who can support projects such as consolidated gardens. There is also a need to continue creating environmental awareness on the dangers of streambank cultivation to the environment. Zimbabwe has witnessed a progressive loss of wetlands over the past decades. The destruction of Zimbabwe's wetlands have been due to the disruption of the natural process of wetlands, basically by agricultural activities, construction of houses, pollution, and wildfires. The demand for housing in urban areas has seen local authorities parceling out land in areas that had been preserved as wetlands, some of which are not fit for housing construction. The country has 7 protected wetland sites, namely Monavai Vlei, Cleveland Dam, Chinoi Caves, Manapuz, Victoria Falls, Driefontein Grasslands, and Lake Chiveru. Some of these protected wetlands are under threat from housing developments and poor farming methods. Invasive alien species continue to spread some challenges in Zimbabwe. These are plant species that were brought into this country as ornamental plants from other countries. These plants have a tendency to colonize certain areas, and they reduce grazing areas at times. They pose a threat to biodiversity. Some of these alien species have imposed enormous costs on agriculture, forestry, and other human enterprises as well as human health. As climate change bites harder, environmental challenges in Zimbabwe worsen. However, the vulnerable are the most hit. Every sector of Zimbabwe now bears the brunt of climate change, from power generation to agriculture, tourism, health, transport. The country will need to gear up and put in place climate adaptation measures to cushion vulnerable groups in society. This report was prepared by the Environmental Management Agency in the interest of creating environmental awareness.